Welcome to Courtney on Health, heard on malcolmpresents.com and other venues.
That's right. This is hey, if you turn on and go to I asked my Alexa to play Courtney on Health, and it came up with the coffee episode. So it is on a smart speaker somewhere floating around.
We're also on YouTube, but every time I go to YouTube, I get a different Courtney one. If you go on to malcolmpresents.com, we're listed by dates,
okay,
and topics of shows.
So
and you can get also the back shows, so you can get the entire spectrum of Courtney.
Well, Courtney she's wonderful on so many topics, so please check them out. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I originally started out as a physiotherapist. Now more we're going for her as a dietitian, and then also more as a philosopher, that we're talking about children.
It's the Courtney philosophy of diet, exercise, kitties, and a whole wealth of information.
Right.
So, not sure if you want me philosophizing all that much, but okay.
I don't know.
I'm going to call the show The Gestalt of Courtney.
Oh, that's in your brain somehow. But in our brain, it's what it is I'll have to do the opening because it goes individually out, so you don't know. So we have to keep doing this intro.
Okay, it's your turn. Do the opening.
So I'm going to do the intro anyway, even though we just literally, I don't know what. This is a Zoomcast.
I'm giving you the close-up. You're on. Go
Courtney on Health is a Zoomcast series, and it's about getting through these lingering COVID times. And I keep saying I wish these lingering times were done. And she has fantastic tips on nutrition and exercise. Courtney's a registered dietitian with a Master of Science in Nutrition and Applied Physiology. I love that one. She's an experienced nutritional and health consultant in New York metro area and quite beyond, and will guide you on a path to wellness and health. And now I'm going to do the poem, which Malcolm always goes, the poem. This one, we're trying to fit this into the topic, and it's called Homework Stew, since school days are coming around, and this is what the episode is going to focus on. And it's by Ken Nesbitt, and this is it. I cooked my math book in a broth and stirred it to a steaming froth. I threw in papers, pencils too, to make a pot of homework stew. I turned the flame up nice and hot and tossed my binder in the pot. I sprinkled in my book report and with colored markers by the quart. Despite its putrid, noxious gas, I proudly took my stew to class. And though the smell was so grotesque, I set it on my teacher's desk. My teacher said, "You're quite a chef, but still, you're gonna get an F." I didn't ask for homework stew. I said, "Tomorrow homework's due." I guess he knew that wasn't gonna work. So school days are upon us, and Courtney has definitely had that on her brain lately, and kiddos have an abundance of nervous energy. Parents have to use their coping mechanisms to the highest level, whether you're dropping your son or daughter off at college or the little ones starting the new year. Homework stew aside, it is important to have a morning and night routine in place to get your life organized. While your mornings might include fighting over the bathroom, searching for missing homework, screaming about lost shoes, and overpouring milk into the cereal, you can plan to make these times more zen and less hectic. If you wake up with the intention of getting into a good morning groove, get that groove on, you'll be able to create a calmer environment. Setting up good patterns in the areas of sleep, preparation of food, backpack items, a healthy breakfast, and more will make the morning rush feel less overwhelming. So if you keep your cool, so will the kiddos. So today, Courtney will give you some great tips and info to get you through the back to school days. So Courtney,
you're on.
You have a younger child at home.
I do.
How do you manage your mornings to get him off to school in a less frenzied manner?
Well, I want to go back to something you just said that's really important for parents to remember. And although you guys know I'm not a psychologist, but psychologists, particularly pediatric psychologists, will tell you that your children pick up on your vibe, right? Your energy that you're, so if you're frenzied, and I'm not perfect at this, nobody is, but as best as you can to try and keep the calm, they will model that in the long run. So keep that in mind. Again, nobody's perfect. If you walk away with a few of the tips we're talking about today to throw in your, your emotional backpack, it'll help you throughout the school year. So some of you who are listening your kids might be in school already. So then, always share what you know, and we always like feedback. But for those of you about to kick off kids, it may be a very different school year than what it was last year. So keep that in mind. If your child is back in school for the first time, things like, quicker breakfasts because you have less time, lunch options, things like that. Get your, take a deep breath, get your notes ready, whether they're emotional notes or actual, notes, and make kind of your plan. I've been doing this for a long time in terms of counseling clients, but then I layered in this with my own kids. So again, some of these tricks work, some of them don't, but we'll just, get right into it. And let's start with, because I feel like a big issue in the morning with a lot of kids and parents is breakfast time. And I will tell you, it's so important. We've heard this before from a cognitive perspective, your child's ability to pay attention, their ability to learn, remember, retain information. Breakfast is key. It doesn't have to be elaborate, but it does need to be something. Now that something, by the way, could be something as simple as literally a glass of milk or a milk alternative if you don't drink cow's milk, buffalo milk, goat milk. But complete protein milks like cow's milk, like soy milk, combined with something, piece of fruit, a bit of a muffin or something that you made. If that's all you can get into your kiddo on the way out the door, this is fantastic. Complete protein options are helpful, but plant-based options are going to be key as well. So keep it simple. Look at some of the other options that are out there and make it easy on yourself. Oatmeal is fantastic if you have the time. Have you guys heard of overnight oats?
Yeah. I've never tried that. What do you do? How do you do that?
So you literally are assembling it. I will tell you, these are quick cooking steel cut oats. And I'm going to talk about why it is a time saver in the morning in just a second. But overnight oats, you generally use rolled oats. So those are the ones that are flatter, right? Look like more flake-like. And you're basically assembling your oatmeal the night before. So you put in your milk or your milk alternative, you put in fruit, some nuts, some things like that. You put it in a glass container, cover it up, stick it in your fridge. And most people consume it the next morning, eat it the next morning cold. That's the nature of it. So it's fast, you're still getting the benefit of those oats, and you skip the cooking process in the morning. So that's the way most people, eat it, kids included. So that is certainly an option for you. Some people like it. Some people prefer warm, hot cooked oats. So you can do rolled oats as an option. You can do steel cut as an option. But if you're going to do the steel cut, those of you who've made these before, traditional steel cut oats take about 25 to 30 minutes all in to cook. Now, I don't know about you.
Yeah, I've had that.
Don't have 25, 30 minutes in the morning to spare. Enter the quick cooking one. Now, this is not instant oatmeal. There's a difference. Okay, they're a little harder to find, but it will say quick 3-minute steel cut oats. And it obviously cuts it down. It's fast. So you can make it there. Not a big time consumer. If your kids love it, it's a great way to start the day. Throw some fruit in there. Like I said, you can add a little bit of nuts, seed, whatever they like. It's a great way, complex carbohydrate, fiber to start the day. Excellent option and very, very reasonable. What I've been doing, I've been encouraging this, and I do it myself, and it's a huge time saver. On the weekend when I have more time, I make big batches of pancakes. I make big batches of French toast. So this is challah bread French toast that I made over the weekend. We don't eat it all. I just make it all when I have more time. And when people have more time, they could do this. Once it's cooled completely, You put it in some kind of bag that's either a freezer bag or something that's going to protect it from freezer burn. Stick it in your freezer. On a busy school morning, you pop those bad boys out of the bag or the container and either throw it in your toaster oven, particularly for French toast, heat it up. You don't have the labor of cooking French toast that morning, and you have a nutritious option for you, typically a very kid-friendly breakfast item in the morning. So you've cut out the work and make your freezer, don't let your freezer be where things go to die, right? It's really going to be, use it to your advantage. You could do the same thing with pancakes, wait for them to cool completely, put them in a container or a bag. And in that case, I think they do a little bit better just microwaved for like less than a minute, just to warm them up, give your kids some fruit, glass of milk, send them out the door. Kid-friendly options. Take advantage of the time that you might have on the weekend to do the work and the time and the labor, and it frees up time in the mornings. You can do things like, obviously yogurt, smoothies. I will say that if you're going to make your own smoothies at home, I think a quick sort of speedy version is a stick blender like this. Why? It's just easier to clean. You throw everything in a little container like this, whirl it up. Some kids like yogurt, some kids don't. So again, some of these might work for you. You're going to obviously apply what your kids like. Sometimes busting out a big blender, it's not usually right on your counter, makes it a little bit more complicated. You can certainly do store-bought smoothies. I will caution you, however, though, to really read those labels because they can be really, really high in sugar. So you're going to want to check those labels and make sure that you're getting away with at least the lowest amount of sugar possible.
Yeah, but when we talked about that, as I said, when you go to the cereal aisle, everything is full with sugar. You missed two of these cereals that I liked, which are a little hard. One is Watina.
Yep.
Which is supposed to be healthy.
I grew up on cream of wheat.
Yeah, and the other was grape nuts.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So there are, let's go to that, Malcolm, since you're bringing it up. I feel like parents feel like they have, there's nothing wrong with preferably a lower sugar cereal in the morning. Grape nuts, these are fine. Wheatina, cream of wheat. Now, cream of wheat is not necessarily high in fiber, but you look at the ingredients and it's one and that's it. So the simplicity you just can't beat. It cooks quickly, it's very nourishing, it's very high in iron. You could do far worse. Cheerios or Cheerio-like cereal where the sugar content is extremely low, very high in fiber. Put in, with milk alternative like soy milk, add some fruit in there, send them on their way. Easy, no fuss, no muss. So these are definitely options. You just want to try and look for those cereals that, again, a little bit higher in fiber, preferably whole grains, and a little bit lower in sugar. There are, and again, look at your labels. They're in the frozen section, turkey and chicken sausages that are options. I will say you're not going to get away with very low sodium options here. The chicken and the turkey options, this happens to be one brand, it's Applegate, it's very good. They're flavorful. They tend to be lower in saturated fat than I would say pork sausage as an option. But again, the sodium content, although better than perhaps pork sausage, I wouldn't consider this a low sodium option, but it's a good source of protein, cooks up very quickly. This piece of whole grain toast, piece of fruit, send your kiddo on the way, easy. So these are options again to look for in your grocery store. And I will say that these are fairly widely available, at least from my area.
Courtney,
avocado toast has become, sorry, Maxine, you got a question?
yeah, I'm just going to ask, you need avocados. What about eggs? Eggs is like a breakfast staple. I mean, I would make my son, an omelet a couple of times a week if we had enough time and we put cheese and, veggies in there. I mean, he would love it. I don't know about all kids, but
Right.
is eggs an option?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. In fact, if your kid, and hopefully your kid does like it, because we've talked about the benefits of eggs before, and if you eat eggs, but it's fast. So obviously I think most of us have probably either scrambled up or made a fried egg before. We're not talking about a big time vacuum here. Okay, it's pretty fast. Whip it up. Great way to start the day. We've talked about this before. Most of us would do a little bit better starting our day with a little bit of fat, a little bit of protein in that mix. Scrambled egg, again, whole grain, piece of whole grain toast, piece of fruit, glass of milk, and you're on your way. So if your kids like eggs, absolutely make that an option. And it just requires a little bit of time. And obviously you just need to have the stuff in the fridge. So it's a great, great option. Avocado toast. And now a little bit more trendier now is ricotta toast. So using ricotta cheese on your toast as a substitute for avocado. Either one is fine. If your kids like it, you could do far worse. And let me tell you, for what they charge for avocado toast in delis and restaurants, it's far less expensive to try and do this at home than it would be to get it in a deli or something like that. So quick, easy. Again, you just have to have these items in the house. Peanut butter and fruit, or peanut butter on toast, peanut butter on a banana, or any nut butter, for example. We're moving into apple season, so delicious, quick, easy breakfast. Any nut butter on a banana or an apple, easy carbohydrate, protein. It's a great way, a great option to start that day. Breakfast pizza is a Casa Courtney option that I think I started when my daughter was younger. So I'm sure people are like, what does she do again? This is the second time she's talking about pizza, but hear me out, okay? There's many reasons why it's easy. First of all, it's probably things you have in your cupboard in your pantry already. Any kind of, this happens to be naan bread. You can use a whole wheat bagel, piece of whole wheat bread, piece of French bread, whatever you have around, pop it in the toaster, okay? Get that nice and crispy. Use jarred sauce, or if you have homemade sauce, fantastic. But if you don't, you probably have this in your pantry. Spoon a little bit of the sauce on your toast. Sprinkle a little bit of whatever kind of cheese your kiddo will eat, whether it's, from cows, or you can get some of the, the rice-based cheeses. If your kid doesn't do dairy, that's an option too. Pop it back in the toaster oven, melt it a little bit. Within 2 minutes, you have a fantastic option. Add a piece of fruit for your kid to start the day. It's a great way to set the palate for something that's not necessarily sweet. So it's an option. You could do far worse. Again, you don't want to dump on a ton of cheese. Is it the healthiest breakfast? Nope. But again, we're looking for options of things that your kids are actually going to eat before they head out the door. So you guys.
I used to do that. I made a couple of times a week. My son liked lunch for breakfast. He liked not the sweet stuff. He liked, because kid's a hot sauce freak to this day. But yeah, I would do pizza once or twice a week at least for him. Pop it in the oven. It was mostly, I think, English muffin. The whole wheat English muffin pizza.
Yeah, it's a great option. Like I said, you could do far worse. And you touched on something, Maxine, that I'd like to bring up. So we can think a little bit differently about breakfast options too. We don't have to think the typical American breakfast options, right? Some people eat fish and rice for breakfast, and that's fine. Some
and
people
a glass
eat
of wine
leftovers for breakfast. Some people eat
glass of wine.
So, again, these are all options. If your kiddo would rather eat a little bit of leftover, or actually likes lox and likes, bagels, these are all perfectly good options. But again, if nothing else, before we leave breakfast options here, quick breakfast options, even if, I hear a lot from clients, and historically when I've worked with them, is my kid won't eat breakfast, I can barely get him out of bed. If you could at the very least get in a milk or milk alternative that's got protein, that's got vitamin D and calcium, and maybe a small piece of fruit or a small piece of toast, call it a day. Don't make it a battleground. It's not the time to do it. You don't have the time.
I'm wondering if you could train a child, like when I was doing my running and my doing the marathon, I would wake up in the morning and I wouldn't say, should I wake up? Do I want to go to sleep? Basically, what I did is I woke up, got out of bed. I didn't think, put on my running shoes. Is there a way to train a child not to say, do I feel like getting out of bed, but just to psych them up when they wake up, they get out of bed without thinking and do it automatically?
Well, this is a great segue, Malcolm, into our next sort of subtopic of sort of organization, getting your kid ready. For most kids, summertime is, it's the lazy days of summer. They might not be on a structured schedule as it should be for, a lot of reasons. So some, truly organization specialists and psychologists would suggest starting to, at least maybe a week or even several days beforehand, starting to get your child back into their usual school year routine. So maybe they shouldn't go to bed at 11 o'clock at night. Maybe pull them back to what they were during the school year. Start to get them up in the morning a little bit closer to their waking time in order to get them ready in the morning. Now, it doesn't need to be painful. You don't need to be super rigid about it, but I think that that general habit and ratcheting back slowly will help get them into that routine. Alarm clocks, they're, old school alarm clocks work very, very well. I know a lot of parents who keep them in the room so that the child, it either keeps them in bed a little bit longer, so your child knows not to get out of bed before X, but on the flip side, helps them get out of bed if there's an alarm set. These are old school, not high tech tips, but they certainly will help in preparation for getting your child out of bed. So certainly getting to bed a little bit earlier is going to help. Trying to do so that the organization strategy is going to work for helping your child be more organized and fostering more independence in them. And then you yourself being more organized. So let's sort of unpack that, a little bit more. So do as much as you can the night before. I know that seems simple, but a lot of people break away from it. They start off the year great, and then everything falls apart, as they get through the year. So what does that mean? Well, if you're packing lunch for your kid, making sure as much of it is prepped and ready to go and in the refrigerator so that you're not doing it first thing in the morning. If you have a child who cares about what they wear, my son couldn't care less. Clean t-shirt, clean shorts, he's gone. My daughter was a little bit more picky. So as part of my routine with her was making sure her clothes were laid out the night before. So there's no arguments in the morning about something, there's a hole, it's dirty, it's this. Take advantage of all that stuff as much as you can the night before. There's a lot of information coming into parents now. I will say it's mostly digital. It used to be in paper form, now it's digital. It can be overwhelming. So you've got information about, activities, back to school, there's weekly newsletters. Try the best you can, at the very least one time per week, try and tackle those emails when you have a little bit of downtime, whether that be Sunday night or whether that be right at the end of the week on Friday. Try to get a leg up on all of that information so it doesn't build up on you. Obviously, if there's urgent things coming up from your school, changes in the schedule, last minute things that you need to send in for your child, those you can respond to as they come in. But the general newsletter type information, try and take advantage of that in blocks of time when you have that time available, which is going to be different for everybody, out there. There's some working parents, there's one working parent, two working parents. So you really have to assess, who in your family is going to be responsible, or is it going to be equally divided in terms of who's responsible for checking that information. A central space for homework, backpack, unloading backpack. So where is it in the morning? And where does it go at the end of the day? It seems like a very simple task, but it allows, again, if you're trying to enable your child and teach them skills that they can take with them as they get older, having them own that process of knowing where that backpack is, what needs to come out at the end of the day. More and more homework is done on devices. So whatever device the school is requiring or using, even little kids, I will tell you, even in kindergarten, first grade, are doing more work online. So it's going to require a parent to check what's coming in at the end of the day for homework, or checking the backpack for homework and what's the process. Make sure you just understand the process of how does homework get submitted. Usually it's a hybrid, combination of submitting something electronically, but then also submitting something through the backpack. Keep track of your child's time spent doing homework. Now, this is going to be a little bit more applicable to older children because younger kids, kindergarten, first grade, might not have homework necessarily. But this is important because you want to be able to communicate to your child's teacher or teachers just how much time they're spending on their work. Most teachers will be able to tell you how much time your child should be spending. So if it breaches that amount, that is time for you to intervene. Why? It keeps the sanity and the chaos lower in your home. It's less stress on your child. Maybe there's something additional help that your child may or may not need, or maybe it's just too much homework that possibly is being sent home. So many options to that, but it's important to keep track of that time. Observe your child doing the work when you can. I realize that most kids are starting homework sometimes when maybe the sitter is home with them or they might be at work, but to the best you can, it's an important thing to do to keep the stress low and to be able to better communicate with your child's teacher or teachers.
What about extracurricular stuff? I mean, even with COVID, there seems to be sports and arts programs, and you have to fit that in. When they say mom's the chauffeur, I remember that, really well. So that's another thing to kind of deal with, because those schedules and coaches and this and that, I remember fairly well. In addition to all the schoolwork, we had the teamwork, and the theater work, so.
Yeah, so I put that under the umbrella, Maxine, of creating your village. Because depending on your situation, and again, everybody's different. You're right, activities are back again, which is fantastic. But it does require carpooling. If you're comfortable doing that, let me say that. I feel like carpooling is an option this year. Last year, first of all, there wasn't a whole lot going on. That's number one. But it took carpooling completely off the table, which was a problem because that was no longer an option for people. So take advantage of it if you're comfortable with it. Create your village around you. Who can you reach out to you? Most parents are very comfortable and willing to share that with you so that the burden doesn't fall on one particular parent all of the time. I know that, fortunately, I'm lucky that I've got a core group in my village, not necessarily on my street, that if I know they're working and they can't do it, one will hop in and help. So that takes, if you're new to a community, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's important to try and have some people in your village to help with you. What if there's a snow day and your buses are late? Or a snow day and you've got to get to work, or you've got a doctor's appointment. What do you, everybody's work options are different. Some people have a lot of flexibility and can stay home if their child is home. Some people don't have that. So you need to sort of work with the parameters of what your work situation is like. But even if you're not working outside of the home and you're working in your home, you need that village anyway to reduce the stress, keep the chaos low, and keep the burden off of one particular parent or caregiver all of the time. And it makes a difference.
Talking about that, for the life of me, I cannot see how the single parent household can get along. I mean, we've raised two kids, they were 2 years apart. But I had me and my wife, and we had the luck of having my mother-in-law was the nanny. So it was family.
Yep.
I cannot see how one woman or man can, raise two kids alone. Because again, as you say, the boys played AYSO soccer, they played Little League, volleyball, after school activities. I don't know how one person can handle, especially in the morning, if you have one bathroom. What Max was saying, especially if you have, girls, which supposedly are notorious in hogging bathrooms.
Yeah. So,
and now the other question I have is, how do you, social media is so much a part of these kids' lives. And, they're on their devices for school, they're on their devices for social, especially during the pandemic when they couldn't get together. I mean, it's healthier when we can get our kids together, obviously, but we're still having, pandemic issues here. So social media is the friends network, these kids. So how do you work with that?
So thank you for bringing that up, because I think it's important to go back to old school technologies before we had all these devices. And one of those, to help kids stay organized. And I will tell you that my daughter to this day, and we just tucked her into college, uses, and she is right in the throes of technology. I don't know if you guys can see this. This is an old school paper calendar. So a day runner. So trying to get them off their devices as much as possible. For many people, the ability to visually see everything out of a month or a week, rather than phones are small. Of course, we have the technology to create calendars in our phones, but for some people, not all, some kids, not all, being able to look down at a calendar, a paper calendar like this, helps with their organization skills. It helps with after school activities. It helps when projects are due. It helps when homework is due and when tests and exams are going to happen. So consider that as an option, particularly if you're trying to extract your kid from spending all their time on a device.
Yeah, and actually, an adjunct to that is why I had in my kids' room, we got chalkboards.
Mhm.
So it was a large board on the wall that
Yeah.
they put their activities. So not only could they see it, but I could see it. Yeah, me and my wife could see it. So we knew what was coming up.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, very, very helpful. So, I mean, just, this I think can be useful for any younger kids, older kids. My daughter's gonna laugh because this is no longer my daughter's school schedule now that she's in college, but I used something, and I know that the pediatric psychologists recommend this for kids who are really struggling in the morning to get out the door. So it helps with organization. So you create a morning schedule for each of your kids. It's literally on a piece of blank paper. It's not very high tech, but you create an individual plan. It's very high level, but it really helps keep kids on track. So again, this is just an example for my kid, but it was like, get dressed, make bed, eat breakfast, brush teeth, check backpack. So if your kid can see this either in a central place in their room, or you put it on your refrigerator, or if you've got a bunch of kids, give them a spot that they can own the process of, okay, this is what I need to do. So even if it doesn't help with necessarily their, long-term organization skills, it will help you as parent and that child each morning to say, what do I need to get done in order to get out the door without, dragging my feet? And sometimes they just need this visual cueing in order to set them down the right pathway.
Okay,
Consider
guys.
a wristwatch.
Speaking of
But for kids
wristwatches,
who are not old enough to have cell phones, and hopefully you can push that off, a wristwatch can be very helpful. Why? Because, they have ones that are even younger for kids in kindergarten, first grade. Keep track of the time. So if they don't have something in their room, or if they are in, let's say, middle school, where they're moving about a little bit more, young middle school, and they need to be in a certain place, and maybe they're not responding to the bell. Sometimes an old school wristwatch is a great tool to have in order to help your kid move from one place to the other.
excuse me, Courtney. Speaking of
Yeah.
wristwatches, my alarm clock went off the wristwatch.
We're done already?
It's
Oh my gosh.
a 30 minutes are done.
Oh, boy, that went quick there, Courtney.
We'll
Oh, boy.
probably
All right, I'll have to put my sleep tips in when I post some stuff, but obviously it's important to talk about getting to bed, routine for sleep, foster a good, healthy routine for proper sleep, but I'll put that all in my post.
Or we could do this at another show,
Sure.
because I think it's a whole thing.
Wow, sleep. I have not been sleeping. But I did have a Mickey Mouse watch from like different ones. I had one in grade school, I had a different one in middle school, and then I had one in high school, and everyone knew my watch. It was kind of funny.
Did you save it? The
I
watch?
think I still have it. I still
That
have
must
it.
be worth a lot of money.
I don't know. I'm old, but I'm not from that old. Anyway.
Yes,
So that's it.
are you as old as Mickey? Anyway, guys, it's been fun.
Well, I'm older than the Magic Kingdom is getting its 50th anniversary this year, and I remember going to the park 50 years ago. So yeah, I'm old, baby.
Are you that old?
Courtney is.
Just
She
kidding.
must have been a baby when it opened. But anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
guys.
So I will do my outro here. Thanks for joining us for Courtney on Health. To get more info, follow Courtney on her Facebook page, Courtney on Health on Instagram at CLG Wellness, and visit her website, CourtneyGravenese.com. For more shows, go to MalcolmPresents.com and theManyShadesOfGreen.com. Here we go. Courtney on Health, smart, sound nutrition, strong, safe fitness. Happy school days to all, and we'll catch you next time.
See you next
Bye-bye.
week. Take care. Bye-bye.